I officially don't get it anymore. Jake Paul. Here's the thing. The whole Jake Paul boxing experiment, I have been extremely lukewarm on. Okay, I was never one of those people that was really up in arms about it. The way I see it, it's business. Okay, like at the end of the day, if you were one of those people that were mad at Jake Paul calling him like, well, you're not a real boxer, I just don't get it. Because what is a real boxer in your eyes? Is it somebody that can make a living boxing? Because that's like only like 5% of boxing. Like, spoiler alert. If you think MMA fighter pay is really bad, take a look at boxing, where I shit you not, the top 1% of boxers make almost it's like 98, 99% of all the money that is generated only goes to the select few champions. And I have to say select few, because even if you're a champion in boxing, it doesn't mean you're getting paid, dude. Like, you maybe make enough to, like, rent an apartment. But when we're talking, like, when I say, hey, name a real boxer, they'll be like, oh, Bivol, Gervonta Davis, some people don't even name Ryan Garcia anymore because he lost. Like, that is how crazy some boxing fans are. Okay? Because boxing has suffered the Mayweather effect, and now if you lose one time, you could no longer become a superstar. Like, understand that that's the problem with modern boxing that has kind of permeated the entirety of the sport. That and fight promotion. Let me just say this right now. I like boxing as a sport. Okay? I do enjoy boxing as a sport. I hate the promotion. I will say this right now. Competition jiu-jitsu has a better promotion, the way they've scheduled everything, the way that everything is set up, than boxing does. You want to know why? Because at least boxing isn't so, I'm trying to find the word for it, like malevolent, benevolent, one of those, of how it's just trying to nickel and dime every single person. Guys that are doing jiu-jitsu don't make shit because most of the sport isn't making a lot of money unless your name is Gordon Ryan. But boxing has the issue of, okay, money is being generated, but how can you afford to pay Anthony Joshua? Isn't it like $20-50 million? He's like one of the most well-paid boxers in the world. However, his fight with Francis Ngannou, I shit you not, only sold around like 10,000, 20,000 pay-per-views. Those are the numbers coming from the U.S. And understand, I know I have some people that are like from other parts of the world. Like it or not, the U.S. is the main country that is buying these pay-per-views. Like, we are one of the few countries that, like, we make up most of the pay-per-views. So when we are only buying 10, 20,000 pay-per-views, understand, you're not magically going to get another 100,000 coming out of the UK. But Saudi Arabia has so much money. I am going on the most legendary tangent ever. Back to Jake Paul. That's like, ugh. I don't understand the Jake Paul thing. I don't. I really don't. Because when it started, it was a Misfit, I think that was the name of the promotion that started it, Misfit Boxing. And he was fighting, it was either Deji or some NBA player. I'm sorry, I just don't care about the names. But it was fun. I like the idea of, if you have beef with somebody, settle it in the ring. I'm a huge fan of that. I like that this was kind of bringing that back to the forefront, because I always kind of saw a lot of like social media people, like I just didn't really like them. But I enjoyed this. Some people called it, oh, well, this is a disgrace to combat sports. This is a freak show. There has always been freak show fights. Like, the Gracies learned how to do jiu-jitsu from a dude that trained in a carnival. I'm not even kidding you. Look at the origin of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. They learned from some dude that came from, he was like a judo guy coming from Japan. And one of the events was him taking somebody out of the audience and just beating the dog shit out of him in a carnival. And then one of the sons was all frail, one of the Gracie sons, and they taught him how to do jiu-jitsu, and all the brothers kind of just created Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Yeah, no, the Brazilians stole it from the Japanese, and Americans took it over. We're better. But, freak show matches have always had a place in combat sports. That never bothered me. And if the social media guys want to do it, by all means, do it. And then, this is where he made a lot of people in my space very angry. He started taking retired MMA fighters. I'm sorry, if you picked Ben Askren to beat Jake Paul just because, oh, well, he was an athlete, dog, he got his hips replaced. I knew he was going to get smoked, but I thought he would do better than that. The only person that I thought was going to beat him from our MMA world, honestly, was probably Tyron Woodley. But Tyron Woodley never ceases to disappoint and loses not once, but twice. I didn't think Nate Diaz was going to beat him. I didn't even think an old Anderson Silva was going to beat him. Because like it or not, Jake Paul is a young dude who somehow, for some reason, is passionate in boxing and has an unlimited amount of resources. So I thought. Let me explain that. Because a lot of people don't understand the amount that youth has to play in combat sports. It really doesn't matter how great you were when you were in your prime, like your late 20s to early 30s. If you're going into your 50s, you are going to have trouble with somebody that's just above decent. That is 25. That's the cold, hard reality of combat sports. It is a place where the old fighters get sacrificed to the young fighters. And then, this is what I thought was happening. I thought Jake Paul was going to graduate from fighting these, retired MMA fighters and making a bag. That's what I always thought it was. I thought he was trying to make a bag. And then he fights Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury, I don't know what the pay-per-views on there. I believe Nate Diaz was the best pay-per-view seller he ever had. But he goes to fight Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury, I don't think I'm going to make a lot of people mad, is a real boxer, but he's not that good. Okay, like the fact is boxing is a very top-heavy sport. You could be undefeated throughout your entirety of the career. The moment you fight somebody that's even slightly decent, you're going to get absolutely smoked. That is Tommy Fury, related to Tyson Fury, the way better and way more famous brother. But Jake Paul loses. All right, yeah, no. That doesn't completely surprise me, because of all his opponents, I believe he's only ever fought one dude that was under the age of 35, and that was Tommy Fury, and he lost. And then I'm thinking to myself, okay, Jake Paul is going to go back to trying to making the bag. He's done with this. I'm going to become a legit boxer. I'm going to fight Canelo. This crazy dream. But instead of that, he tries to make the legit boxing approach. And it is one of the funniest shit that I've ever seen. He goes and fights some no-name, I believe was an Uber driver. And here's the thing, there's absolutely no shade here, because here's the fact of the matter. People like to bitch and moan about MMA fighter pay. Guess what? Boxing's even worse. But you guys will exonerate boxing for whatever reason. It's so strange to me. MMA is a very new sport comparatively. Boxing, you've been around for hundreds of years. Yet you guys can't really figure out a good pay structure, or we just kind of exonerated you from that. So he tries to make the legit boxing approach, and let me tell you what that looks like. You're going to be fighting a lot of dudes that don't have any name value, that, in all honesty, probably aren't that good, because, again, most of the talent and money is in the top 5 to 1% of boxing. Everybody else is either broke or bad, or both. In this case, he was broke and bad. And Jake Paul wins fairly easily. Nobody watched that shit. I don't even think I watched the highlights of that. The only reason that I even know about this is, when you're scrolling through your YouTube, and if you pause on a video when you're scrolling, you can see a clip from it. That is what I saw from the Jake Paul fight. I didn't even give him the courtesy of getting a view, because that's how much I cared about this fight. Not at all. And then I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Fine. I'll give Jake Paul something here. He's going to try to become a legit boxer. I don't understand that, because let me tell you something. Jake Paul will give shit to MMA. Give shit to the UFC fighters. Not UFC fighters. Dana White. For the fighter pay issues, all the stuff that with their contracts that are kind of messed up. All that type of business. But the ironic part about it is he's not going to say shit to WBC. He's not going to say anything about these boxing promotions. because he wants to be in their little club. Here is some reality here, and I think he realizes this now. Jake Paul, it does not matter. Even if let's say you KO Canelo Alvarez. Let's say this fight does magically get made and it's an exhibition match and you KO Canelo Alvarez in the opening round. Boxing will never accept you as anything other than a novelty and competition. Because boxing is in denial that they are being outdone by the UFC when it comes to promoting and consistently selling their fights. Boxing has dropped the ball on promotion, and it is something I worry about with the UFC because at the end of the day, mainstream boxing and the UFC are kind of at both different sides of the spectrum of the same problem. The UFC is the main organization with a bunch of feeder competition. Okay, ONE FC is not competing with the UFC. Bellator's done. The PFL will never compete with the UFC. They just won't. And ESPN is fully aware of that. And boxing is more of an entity than anything, so they don't have any real competition. So if there's no competition, there's no need to try to outdo yourself. Try to give the consumer something better. And they've gone so far in this direction that they were getting their viewers stolen. I'm not going to say money was stolen. They were having their viewers stolen by some YouTubers fighting TikTokers. Jake Paul fighting a retired MMA fighter was actually competition to boxing in terms of the attention economy that we're in right now. I have to stress that enough. I mean through attention. Boxing is not going to go bankrupt, even though I wish it would, because I can't stress this enough. I don't dislike the sport of boxing. I hate the promotion of it. The promotion of boxing, those entities that are around it, are, one, just scummy business practices, or just downright criminal. You cannot tell me that, like, these big championship boxing matches that people are magically getting paid $300 million in all throughout the entirety of the promotion, when they only sold the average amount of pay-per-views. Like, I'm sorry to burst your bubble. Boxing is 100% a money laundering scheme. You cannot tell me that some of these boxing matches are not a money laundering scheme. Because that's how it was done in the past as well. They were just not as clever about it. Back to Jake Paul. Jake Paul proved that you can be independent from this whole boxing entity and still make money. But he made the mistake of trying to go into their world. Understand that if he beat Tommy Fury, they would keep him along until he got horrifically KO'd. And then they would market that, clip that as much as they could. As, you see what happens when a YouTuber fights a legit boxer? You want to know how I know they would do that? Because that's exactly what they did with Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou was meant to get KO'd horribly by Tyson Fury. We're talking about Tommy too much. By Tyson Fury, and they were just going to sweep him under the rug as, yeah, look at poor MMA fighter, couldn't make a lot of money doing MMA, so he comes over to boxing and gets KO'd for a couple $1 million. Have fun. The boxing is better. We pay our athletes more. Which is bullshit, by the way. So he does well against Tyson Fury, so they have to keep him around, and they give him a ranking because they have to keep the legitimacy here, because what does it look like at somebody in their professional boxing debut is able to take your best guy went the distance with somebody making their pro debut. To keep their legitimacy, they gave him a ranking and another fight and another payday. And that was against Anthony Joshua. And we all know what happened there. Anthony Joshua horrifically KO'd Francis Ngannou, and now the only entity that is interested in doing business with Francis Ngannou is Saudi Arabia because they have so much money. They consider Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou an overwhelming success, despite, I believe that event lost something like $50 million in deficit. They're the only ones doing business with Francis. Francis is probably never going to fight any worthwhile boxer because they're aware of this. So Jake Paul served his usefulness by losing to Tommy Fury. He's not going to be given another chance. The reason that he sifted, in my mind, this is just me thinking, the reason that he's no longer trying to become a legit boxer is one, he knows boxing will never accept him. Boo-hoo, you're a millionaire. Get over it. And the fans won't accept him because guess what? Making your entire career over being unlikable turns out to make fans that don't like you. Nobody wants to buy the pay-per-views. Everybody wants to stream it because, spoiler alert, most of your fan base are children or people that don't have enough money to buy a pay-per-view. That's why you had to do them cheaper, and you only sold 50,000 in your first fight. Again, it was your first or second fight with Tyron Woodley. That is a overwhelming bomb. And now he's fighting Mike Tyson. This is where I'm losing my mind, and this is the reason why I'm making this video. Okay? Because not only is he fighting Mike Tyson, which, if you were to tell me this a year ago, somebody made a skit about this as well, where they were already making fun of Jake Paul for fighting these old MMA fighters and these older fighters. He has not just leaned into the meme, but has the audacity to complain about it. Like, I didn't really want to fight Mike Tyson because it's kind of a lose-lose for me. Then why sign the contract? What good reason do you have to fight Mike Tyson other than you got to make some money because I know those training camps cost a lot of money? You talked about you lost money in your last boxing match. I believe it. Because guess what? A lot of boxers lose money in the beginning of their career because training camps cost a lot of money. And then we see the rule set. The rule set, I'm not even kidding you. One, they're using sparring gloves. They're using the 16-ounce gloves. So sparring gloves, the rounds are 2 minutes instead of being 3 minutes. That is 1/3 of the entire fight is not going to be fought. Overall sorter match, some people were coping and saying, oh, well, that's better for Mike Tyson. Hear me out. We're going to go further into this. Another stipulation is Mike Tyson has to get an EEG and an EKG before he can be cleared to fight. And they had the audacity to write the rule like, well, due to the safety of our athletes, because it means a lot to us, we are going to make every fighter, every boxer that is over the age of 35 years old get an EEG and an EKG with a licensed physician. So, Mike Tyson is so old that I'm worried he's going to die from a brain bleed because that's what happens when you're almost 60 and you're about to fight. That we're to clear myself of not getting sued and just being, slaughtered in the media when I'm fighting this boxing legend, an icon for young men. I'm going to make him have an EEG. Good luck, Grandpa. And the final rule is what ended it for me, okay? There's going to be 0 judges, and this fight the only way that this fight will be ruled with a winner and a loser is if somebody gets knocked out. If it goes the distance, it will be a draw. This is already an exhibition. You're wearing sparring gloves. You're making your old man opponent, Mike Tyson the Beloved, take a EEG and EKG. And you're also cutting 1/3 of the fight down so Grandpa has a chance. And the final rule is now there's not going to be a winner being announced. And the only way a winner can be announced is through KO. And I know some people are going to be delusional and be like, well, Mike Tyson got this. Have you seen the training? Dog, do you have any idea how easy it is to stage a highlight video for Instagram? I am telling you this right now, 100%. That was done beforehand. That's not legit training, okay? They did that at the beginning of training before they got into it. Mike Tyson is almost 60 years old. I'm not saying that Jake Paul overall is a better boxer than Mike Tyson. Nobody with half a brain cell is saying that. All I am saying is that there's a reason that they are turning this into a sparring session. That is what this is. This fight will end in a draw. I'm telling you the script right now. I know there's like a joke talking about there's a script in every single Jake Paul match, and that's why he's been winning. I am telling you this right now. This is probably the only fight where I could say there is kind of a script. but I don't think they're both on board. I think Jake Paul realizes the amount of heat that he'll get for KOing or beating Mike Tyson in any way, that he's going to make the fight shorter so he can carry him the distance, cutting the fight in 1/3 of the fight is done already because of this rule set. We're going to be putting on sparring gloves, and I'm not going to KO him. I'm just going to carry him to a dominant decision, and we're going to have a few cool little back and forths, but other than that, it's going to go to the decision with 0 judges, and it's going to be ruled a draw, and we're going to shake each other's hands and say, thank you, viewers, for watching. Please subscribe to Netflix. Because, yeah, this is going to be streamed for free on Netflix. No pay-per-views, because ain't nobody buying this. I just wanted to rant really quick. I'm feeling a little sick. That's why my voice is a little bit weirder in this video. But damn, the raids of this whole Jake Paul situation resurrected me from my bed. I just had to talk about this. Jake Paul, I don't get it. Who cares if you're a legit boxer or not? If you're going to get the bag, get the bag. If you're going to become a legit boxer, become a legit boxer. But don't complain that it's a lose-lose if me fighting old man Mike Tyson. You're the one that signed the contract. Quit complaining. You're a millionaire. Adios, guys.